It's been a long time coming, folks, but here we are. Welcome to my Q&A special. I have to say, folks, before we start, there's been a lot that's happened lately since I took my break a month ago. We've gained over 450 subscribers and we're now on the road to 500. We've gained over 1,900 Twitter followers, and of course we've gained over 300 followers on Instagram. So you guys mean a lot to me. Without you guys, I just simply wouldn't be here, and that is a fact. So thank you so much to everybody who's liked my videos, subscribed, interacted with me, just anything like that. You guys have been fantastic and I love making content for you. Anyway, with that said, let's get on with the meat and potatoes of this video, the Q&A. Now I've got my trusty phone here so I can read off questions from that, but what you'll see on screen is a shot of the question when I read it out, so you guys can see exactly what I read out and you can see the person in question who asked the question. Anyway, here we go. Okay, so my first question comes from Warpig. Warpig asks me, we've spoken before and I know you had another channel before this one. Do you ever look back and regret walking away? Well, Warpig, I don't regret walking away because at the time I had no direction, no ambition, and university was killing me at the time. I also had no sense of knowing what I wanted at the time. I simply just copied what everyone else did. When I made this channel back in 2016, it was a chance for me to start again, start fresh, use what I learned from media and continue to use what I learned from media, but also carve out an identity for myself. That way, when I start making videos, you guys can confidently say, oh look, that's an AffroShow video, oh look, that guy definitely identifies with me in this way, and I can also identify with him, but he's not trying to copy PewDiePie or Markiplier or whoever else is popular today. So this channel was a chance for me to start afresh, and I'm glad I did it. I don't regret walking away at all. I still have the channel up, and I was meant to do this massive renovation with it. That's why there's not much content on it today. There used to be tons and tons of videos. There was 300 to 400 videos at one point before I took them down because I wasn't happy with them, but I wish I hadn't done that. That's the only thing I do regret, is that I'd left the videos as they were so people could see where I came from, but never mind. Okay, my next question comes from Kimmick. Can I just say, Kim, I really miss you so much. I can't wait to talk to you again, and I really hope that's soon, but I hope you're doing well at work. Anyway, Kimmick asks, who would be the person you'd most like to collab with and why? Well, Kim, I'm glad you asked me the question. I would definitely love to collab with you. We were meant to do that a while ago, folks, but we're still going to be doing it hopefully when she returns. But I'm gonna split this into two camps: big YouTuber and small YouTuber. In terms of bigger YouTuber, I would most love to collab with Cadicarus, or Cadicarus as I like to call him. Cadicarus is an amazing YouTuber. He tends to cover retro games, mainly on the PS1, but he has done his fair share of modern gaming, such as the Crash NSYNC trilogy, the new Abe's Odyssey remaster, and he also has done a boatload of different consoles, so PS1, PS2, Xbox, PC, DS. He's done a lot of them. The reason why I would love to collab with him is just because his brand of humour is so unique and really insane. He's a crazy guy, he loves his humour, he's very out there, he doesn't give a crap, he's absolutely hilarious, but he's just so smart and intelligent. It really comes across when he's doing the top 10 lists or when he's talking about a game and its mechanics. He's really intelligent in that sense, and he's very good at describing how he feels in the utmost detail. That's why I'd love to work with him. Now, as for a smaller YouTuber who I haven't spoken to regarding a collab or I haven't worked with yet, is Blazing Camel Gaming. This guy is an absolute fun guy to see and watch. He's really funny, he's off the cuff, I love his commentary, and I just love the way he just interacts with the game. But also, his editing is absolutely top class. He does a lot of cutting, but he does it because it enhances the experience and it's much funnier. It's a very fast-paced style, and it really is just the way forward if you are going to do Let's Plays. In my opinion, it's the only way to work. but he does it in a way which is just hilarious, and you can see it when you see him doing his work. I'd love to collab with him because I think his brand of humour and my kind of more serious, albeit more entertaining kind of way would work well, and he loves PS1 games like I do, so I think there's a potential collab there. So Blazing Camel Gaming, if you're watching this video, and I hope you are, please consider the collab. Alright, my next question comes from Azalea22, and her question is, here's a question for you since I know you like cars. What's your favourite car? I've got so many favourite cars, I can't even begin to figure out where to start. You know, I like the Ford Mustang, Dodge Chargers, TVRs, BMWs, Subaru Impreza, Mitsubishi Evo, Nissan Skyline R34. The list goes on, you know, Aston Martin DB9, Aston Martin DB6, even more common cars here like the Ford Focus, the Mini Cooper, the Volkswagen Golf. For now, my most favourite car right now is the Mazda MX-5. It reminds me of sports cars of the British back in the 70s, but more importantly, it's reliable, it's fun to drive, it's simple, and it gets decent economy. It gets the job done, and it excites the driver when they drive it every time, just because there's not much in the way of gizmos or driver aids or anything like that that would spoil the driving experience. Now I know more modern models obviously have traction control and all the other stuff that you need to have due to the government's intervention, but it's still a fun car to drive. I actually drove one recently just to test it out from Mazda's dealership. The driving was sensational. It really was an absolute fantastic drive. It was everything I wanted in a car and more. So right now, my favourite car that I really want to own is the Mazda MX-5. If you could only have one video game with you for the rest of your life, which one would you choose? Well, Azalea, I'm glad you asked me the question because I have the answer for you. Here it is, folks. Gran Turismo 2. I would have this game for the rest of my life. And the reason why that would be is because there's a ton of cars, a ton of customizations, a lot of tracks, a decent soundtrack, and the memories this game gives me is absolutely incredible. Not to mention I adore cars, and I just love the way this game works with its handling engine and the track design and just the wealth of options and replayability this game offers. Gran Turismo 2 is my favourite PS1 game ever, and if I had to take one game with me only, I would take this one. Now some of you guys might say, oh, why not Gran Turismo 3 or 4? They've got more cars or they've got better graphics over us. And yeah, they do, but there's just something about Gran Turismo 2 that keeps me going every time I play that particular game. It's absolutely insane just how much hours I've sunk into this game. I've sunk so much that I've probably just lost track of time. It's that good, and I still play this game on a daily basis today, so Gran Turismo 2 would get my vote. What's your favourite donut? My favourite donut is jam. I'd have some here, but if I did, I'd eat them all off. Oh, hello little donut. Which video game did you have the hardest time pushing yourself to play due to how bad it was? That was Tunguska, Legend of Faith. That game was absolutely broken. It sucked so hard, and it was really, really unfinished and unpolished. There was no love put into it, and the controls were just horrendous. Not to mention there were so many pits and traps which caused you to die or take damage because the developers were lazy in trying to make it so that you could get past the traps. Everything in that game is unsatisfying, but I will say, despite that, I will find a copy and I will own it, just so whoever comes around this house can play it and they can tell me themselves if they think the game's worth trying out. And trust me, every answer is going to be no. Alright, now the next question is coming from Erin. What inspired you as a director / movie maker, and what was one of your first experiences like of making a movie? Well, Erin, that's a great question. Nothing has inspired me as a director because I've never wanted to be a director. I've always wanted to be behind the camera or involved within the scene, so being an actor. The only reason why I'm kind of a director now is because I do all these things by myself. I've got no help in terms of assistance with the camera or assistance with the content. I'm just one guy who does all the content by himself, and that's about it. But what did inspire me to make films or TV shows or whatever, however, was just obviously watching shows like Top Gear. Shows like that really helped me to give myself an idea of what I wanted to do. I've also got lots of movies that inspired me as well. So movies like Speed, movies like the Bourne series, James Bond. I've got lots of movies off the top of my head, but unfortunately I can't think of them right now. But I do have a ton of movies that I've watched over the years that have made me think I would love to be a part of that. And of course, same with TV shows and even documentaries as well. I've got lots of documentaries I love to watch. Forensic Files, Seconds from Disaster. I just love watching a lot of American TV shows, but a lot of them have inspired me to do this myself. And I also love to present. I've loved presenting, so YouTube for me was the obvious platform to make this a reality, and now I feel like I can do it. So hopefully it's showing well, and fingers crossed it comes across as convincing. As for my first experience making a movie, obviously it was doing the short film, A Different Picture. I really wanted to make my own short film, but I couldn't think of a good concept or story or anything for the longest time. Then in my last year of uni 2 years ago now, I was able to think of a decent idea, but I had help with my friends and my other I suppose my colleagues, shall I say, to help me finalise and finish the story up. That way the story could be possible in 10 or less minutes. And it was just a great experience. I've connected with the actress who was with me. I still talk to Tara today. It was interesting being an actor for once. I've always wanted to do that, and I feel I did a pretty decent job. It was just interesting. The one thing that did surprise me, however, was just the amount of costume changes that I had to do. It's just incredible how many costumes I had to go through to do the film, and I feel I did a lot more costume changes in my life in that week than I did in one day. So that was the one thing that did surprise me. But overall, it was a positive experience, and I'd love to do it again, that's for sure. Okay, my next question comes from Zephyr C Gaming. I think I pronounced that correctly. If I haven't, I'm so sorry. I'm terrible with names. So here's his question. I originally found your content through the collab you done with Azalea22 playing Brawlhalla and thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you very much, I really appreciate that. I thought we really enjoyed it as well, and it was a great game. I'm wondering how you both came to meet and decide to do the collab in the first place. In terms of meeting, basically we met on Twitter. I approached Azalea. I basically followed her, watched her channel, and I was really impressed with the content she was making at the time, so I approached her. Thankfully she did respond, and we became good friends. After that, I wanted to collab with her. She hadn't collabed before, so it was her first time collabing. I wanted her to collab with me on a game called The Mission because I thought she had the voice and the humour to do it. She'd never done anything like the videos I've done before, so for her it was an exciting challenge for her. She was more than up for it, and that collab went successfully, so we then planned to do collabs on her channel as well, because obviously she loved making these kind of videos about on games where she just has a lot of fun. So I said yeah, and we try to find games which we thought would be fun to play online. Brawlhalla was one of them. I suggested Brawlhalla, and after giving it a little play with Azalea, she wanted to do a video on it, so that's what we did. Since then, she's done videos on other games such as I forgot what that game was called. It was a game where we were playing Walking Dead style and we had to survive. I forgot the name of the blooming game. I think it was Dead by something. I can't remember, but we've done that. We've done more Brawlhalla, and we've also done another collab with some other people who you'll see very soon, so look out for that one. Next up, we have 3 questions from Dr. Virtual. Do you prefer 8 or 16-bit games? Unfortunately, I haven't owned an 8-bit system yet. One day that'll change, so for now, at question number 1, that will be 16-bit games because I do own a SNES and a Mega Drive. What are some games with music you just love listening to? Oh, let's see about that one. Let me go get them. I have so many games I love listening to the music to. It's definitely safe to say that this list would be spammed full of it, but To keep it short, I'm going to show you 2 games that I absolutely love the soundtrack to when I hear them. The first one here is, of course, the obvious one, Outlawz. I'm not going to go too much into Outlawz because I will make a video about it very soon, but the soundtrack in this game is absolutely first class. It's so good that it's probably my favourite soundtrack of all time. But again, I will explain this in another video. A more common one that I think most of us agree on in terms of the horror genre is this one, Resident Evil 2. Every time I listen to this soundtrack, the better it gets. The composers of this game did a sublime job with the soundtrack. It's creepy, it's catchy sometimes, but it's also very enjoyable to listen to outside of the game, and it really gives you a chill inside when you hear it. They spent a lot of time making this soundtrack incredible, and considering that this was the second game in the series, that just shows you the jump from the first game, and the soundtrack still stands the test of time years after release. It's so good, it's actually better than the remake soundtrack, even though the soundtrack in that game is still very good. It just doesn't compare to this one, and that is a fact. Our next question comes from Mr. Trap, or Alex Trap, whatever the case may be, but here's his questions. Have you ever thought about creating your own site to host your vlogs and game reviews? If you continue posting on YouTube, what are some things you would like to do after gaining 1,000 subscribers? Okay, Trap, so to answer your questions, I've never thought about it. That being said, recently, I did think about changing my scripts into blog posts. That's very possible because of the way that I've written the scripts. They can easily be transformed into a blog post with just a few edits, so I may host a blog site where I post all my reviews in written form, so I may do that. I don't think I want to make my own website regarding anything else though. I don't want to make my own website regarding reviews and stuff like that. It would be cool, but I just think it'd be too much work and I'd end up negating it after a while, so I'll just stick with YouTube. As for things I want to do after gaining 1,000 subscribers, well, the possibilities are endless. I don't really have a set video game that I want to cover at that specific subscriber count, but I'd love to be obviously rolling with it at that point. I'd love to be seeing my bite size grow. I'd love to be seeing the main series growing. I'd love to be covering all the games that I've always wanted to cover for years. I'd also be loving to try out other consoles that I never got a hold of when I was younger. So by that point, I'd love to be covering all sorts of different consoles and different games, and I'd love to be just being myself. I mean, there's not really much I can say about that other than hopefully I'm still doing what I'm doing and I still get to cover lots of games and lots of different consoles in my perspective. So I look forward to getting to that point, assuming we do hit 1,000 subscribers and beyond. Next up, we have Bubbly Zen, and she has 5 questions for me to answer, so let's see what they are. What inspired you to start YouTube? Well, believe it or not, nothing inspired me to start YouTube. I started YouTube back in 2012, and the only thing that made me start the YouTube was that I used to make content on GameSpot. I used to just make random videos of me playing games, and they stopped doing that, so I decided that YouTube was the next obvious place to do it, and that's where I took it. So nothing really inspired me to start YouTube. I was more forced to do YouTube because it was the only platform at the time where it was easy to upload decent videos, and it was the only place where I could continue uploading gameplay videos. So that's how I started YouTube. All the inspiration stuff came later as I started to really watch other content creators, but in terms of starting, that's how I started. How do you stay motivated to create content? How I stay motivated is I listen to a lot of music. I don't rush my content. I take breaks when I make content. And I also find new ways to make my content better. I'm always somebody who likes to improve and find new ways to make content more unique, more fun, more engaging to both myself and the audience. I also keep on looking at my favourite TV shows or favourite movies, and I always get inspiration from them. I always try and find new ways to see how they do exciting shots or how they keep people invested. I also look at other YouTubers to see how they keep their audience invested as well. But the main source of motivation for me to keep myself going is just the love and the passion that I have for making videos. I absolutely love making videos, and even though a lot of them, like this one here, is quite hard to make, they're the ones that keep me going because they give me a challenge. And when videos give me a challenge, I'm more motivated to keep going. I'm also not afraid to take risks and change everything up if I think that's necessary. So that's how I stay motivated in making my content on YouTube. Is there a YouTuber that has inspired you or helped you grow as a creator? Over the years, there's been many different types of YouTubers and content creators who have inspired me to be who I am today. But most of the inspiration that I have actually comes from TV and documentary and doing media and working with my co-workers or my colleagues there. So there's been a mix of people, but I would say the one person who has kept me going would have been either Cadacarus or GameSack. I absolutely love these two people and they still inspire me today. Obviously I've got other inspiration like AVGN, as everyone says, but those two are the main ones that have inspired me in more recent years. So I look to them whenever I try and figure out a new path for content creation, but there's loads of people who have inspired me, so there's just too many of them to name, so there's a lot. Oh, and it turns out she asked me 4 questions, not 5. My bad. What goals would you like to meet in the next 5 years? I'd like to hit 1,000 subscribers. I'd like to own quite a lot more retro consoles and retro games. I'd like to be able to cover modern games, albeit in my style, so I'll probably get to that soon. I'd also love to just get some merchandise out as well, you know, try and get some really interesting and funny, quirky merchandise that has me all over it. So hopefully all these goals can be met in 5 years. I'd also love to just be able to collab with some of the bigger YouTubers or some of the bigger retro gaming people out there. That would be a dream as well. I'd love to be featured on their content in some way. That would be an absolute dream to me as well. So we'll see. Okay, my next question comes from BMD on RG+. What games would you like to do in depth for Affro's Curiosities? Well, I'm glad you asked because I've got a few of them right here to show you. So, obviously we've got the aforementioned Outlawz, as I said before. And then we've got Soul Blade here. I'd love to cover Soul Blade. I've actually said in my videos that I will be covering this game very soon, so watch that space, but I would definitely love to cover this game. Obviously here, this is going to be the game that we cover in my first video back, Fighting Vipers. I've been wanting to cover this video for quite some time. Quite a few of you actually requested this game, so hopefully it will be exactly what you're looking for when I finish with it. Then we've got a game that I've wanted to cover for the longest time, G-Police. Now, this particular game I've always wanted to cover because I used to see it in the magazines all the time and I had no idea what it was, but I liked the name and I always saw it, but I finally bought it and now, fingers crossed, one day I will cover it in great detail. Another game that I'd love to cover would be the original Resident Evil. Now, obviously I have the PlayStation version here and I also have the Sega Saturn version, but it doesn't really matter which one I cover, just because I really want to play this game for you guys, and there's just so much about this game we can talk about. You know, we can talk about the live action actors, we can talk about the mechanics, how it all started. This game has a big, massive backstory to it, and I want to cover it. So, for now, those are some games that I would really love to cover, but there's more in the future, and I'm keeping them secret just for you. Next up, a content creator who I mentioned earlier, Blazing Camel Gaming. So, hello! Now, here's his question. It is, I grew up playing the PlayStation, so I want to know what's your favourite game from that console? How about the worst game you've played on that console? To be fair, we've already covered it, and that was Gran Turismo 2. I've already said the reasons why, because it's so good. There's a lot of variety of cars, there's a lot of replay value, and I just love it so much. I'm a huge fan of racing games, and for me, Gran Turismo 2 was going to be the obvious choice. So, to me, that's my favourite PS1 game of all time. Okay, so my next question comes from Tess. I'm not quite sure how to say her name. I think it's Tessnoya. I'm not too sure, but I just call her Tess. So, here's her question. What advice would you give a fresh new YouTuber to ease the launch of his or her first channel? It's a very interesting question. I would say the one advice I'd have to say to them is just go for it. Don't worry about the video too much. You have to start somewhere in order to get better. You can't just be amazing straight away unless you've obviously done this for years beforehand, but just start and just go for it, and don't worry too much about the quality when you first start. You can work on that over time as you watch your first video and then you go back and see what's right or wrong with it. Another piece of advice I would give is just be yourself and don't worry about growth. Just be you, enjoy the experience, and do not worry about subscribers, views or whatever until later on when you start to become a bit more serious. But if you don't enjoy your craft, if you don't love what you're doing, if you don't love the genre that you're doing, then there's no point. So just start, go for it, and don't worry about growth. Definitely aspire to it, nothing wrong with that, but just don't worry about it. Enjoying the experience for me is way more important than any numbers or any kind of growth numbers, so definitely enjoy the experience. So next up we've got Jay, and he says, ooh, Q&A time. What's your most embarrassing incident / moment, whether in public or private? So my most embarrassing moment was when one of them that I definitely remember off the top of my head was I went to the cinema with a girl and we were watching the Transformers movie. I think it was the third one. I think it was. This was around 7 years ago, and there's this one scene where I jumped because I didn't expect it, and I had a bottle of Coke in my hands, and it literally went all over me and her, and she wasn't happy. She had a lot of makeup on, she was wearing this lovely summery dress, and I just spoiled it for her. And then when I tried to help her, I accidentally knocked over the popcorn onto her dress and made it worse. So I spent a lot of the movie trying to help her clean it off, and it wasn't good. So that was definitely my embarrassing moment. She never spoke to me after that, predictably enough, so it was an interesting moment. My next question comes from Half-Blood Pixie, and she asks me, would you make tutorial videos on editing? If you could film anywhere in the world, where would you film? In terms of would I make editing videos? Possibly not, and the reason why is because one, it wouldn't fit in on my channel anymore. I don't want to make a new channel just to put on videos on how to edit, and two, everyone edits on a different platform in a different way, so my tutorial wouldn't cover nearly enough ground on how to edit in a certain way. Also, YouTube is meant to be an experimental platform in my opinion. We all have the ability to edit, and we all should find our way in editing in terms of how we would want something to be presented. I could give general guidelines on editing, but I just feel people would be turned off by that in my opinion. Not to mention there's lots of great YouTubers out there who already make great tutorials on editing, so I would recommend them. I don't mind if someone were to ask me in private about it, I'd definitely give them some pointers, but for me, I don't see myself making any tutorial videos. It'd be cool, but right now I've got no desire to do so, and there's just nowhere for them to be put on the channel because I want my channel to be focused on the gaming content that I do today. As for anywhere would I film in the world, there's two in mind. Definitely the United States and definitely Australia. I love both countries, I want to visit both countries. Both countries intrigue me. I love the Australian accent, and of course I love the American lifestyle, minus the guns of course, and both countries are massive compared to what we have here in the UK. So I'd love to do a vlog in both countries. I'd love to film in both countries. I don't know whereabouts in both countries I want to film. I know one place I want to film in the United States would be New York, and for Australia it would be Sydney, but I would just want to explore, so that's my answer to your question, Half-Blood Pixie. And the final question for today comes from Jaw Gogo, and he asks me, I don't know if you've answered this one, but what is your favourite hidden gem video game that probably no one knows about? I've spoken about it already, and of course it's Outlawz, an absolute great game. As I've said before, this game is the one I would consider a game that nobody knows about. It's an absolutely fantastic game, one of the best games I've played ever, and you can buy it on Steam and GOG.com, so you've got no reason to miss out on this fantastic classic, so please give it a go, please. I've said before, I will make a video soon about it. Stay tuned for it, and hopefully it will convince you otherwise to play the game. Well folks, that was my last question. Hopefully you enjoyed the questions, and hopefully you enjoyed my answer to them. It was a lot of fun. I hadn't done a Q&A in about a year, so it was nice to give another one a try. I've got to say that the Q&A took longer than I thought, but it is what it is. Q&As can take a while to make, and I'm happy enough to do them. Fingers crossed that we can get some success later on YouTube, but for now, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Like I said before, in 2 weeks time, on Sunday the 28th of July, there will be a video with my comeback of Afro's Curiosities regarding fighting vipers, so I can't wait to get that done for you. If you like this video, give it a like, comment down below on what you thought of my answers, and if you've got any more answers I could answer, possibly down below as like a little bonus. And until next time, I will see you in my next video.